then also understanding that we can't keep taxing people in order to get that. We have a good budget in the state of Michigan, and it just, you see these dollars being funneled to these corporations and these entities, and we're giving tax abatements to big box stores instead of giving it to private, or small business owners, right? Like when I bought my building on Ludington Street, when I owned a small business, I didn't get a tax break for buying that building. In fact, our taxes became uncapped because the prior owner had bought it in 1960 and held on to it, and then when we bought it, our taxes became uncapped and they tripled in amount. I didn't get a break for being a small business owner and buying a building on Ludington Street and improving it and stuff. So there's things that can be worked on, And then of course our rural health care, that is a thing that I'm very passionate about. I tell people in Marquette, I'm like, and for me too, being in Escanaba, I don't understand what it's like to have to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours to get care, right? We have a hospital in Escanaba, we have a hospital in Marquette, but for those people in those rural areas that are having to, go on an ambulance ride for an hour and a half to get to an ER, or travel 2 hours to deliver a baby, like those things should not be happening in this day and age. And the problem is that we have allowed for-profit healthcare systems to come in where they only care about the profit, they don't care about the people, they don't care about their workers, and we're seeing our rural healthcare being decimated. So how do we fix it, right? Because you decide and you figure out what the problem is, but then you have to have a plan on how to fix it, right? So I've been in touch with Rob Stowe from Baraga County Memorial Hospital because they are a community-based hospital, right? They're not owned by this huge for-profit company, and they are expanding at a rate that for the UP is just like, wow. Like you look at their plan, they've got 25 nurses that graduated this past May that only want to work at Baraga County. He doesn't even have jobs for them, but he hired them so that they can at least get like a few hours and get their feet in the door. They don't want to go work for a private entity where they're going to be forced to work doubles, where they're not going to get what they need with their union contracts. They would rather go work for a county hospital, live in the county, take care of the county, and now they're expanding. Schoolcraft Memorial is like that as well. So I want to take those examples and spread it all over the UP. And we do that by investment, we do that in research, and we do that by taking the for-profit companies out of the equation. Because we all saw what Aspirus did in Ontonagon, right? And then we all saw what hell they're giving their nurses, their MNA nurses, the Michigan Nursing Association. They're not giving them a fair contract up in Houghton. And so I'm sick of it. Like when Duke LifePoint bought the Marquette Hospital, their employees call it Duke Death Point. Ooh. Because they don't care. They don't care about the people they serve. They don't care about the employees they have. And so we just got to say, like, enough is enough, right? And you're going to be a real guest. Hey.
Take a seat up front so that everybody.
Yeah, and
who made the coffee then?
Huh? Nice to see you again. You look so good. Hi. You get the table. I need coffee. But yeah, so those are like two examples of what I'm working on, and then of course our mental health care desert that we have right now. It's really important to me that we start keeping our getting our mental health care local, making sure that the for-profit companies don't get an opportunity to take it over at the county level, and then we got to expand it, right? We got to look at ourselves and say, why are we constantly worrying about bringing our people downstate for the care? Why isn't the UP the leader in the care? We always wait for someone else to come up with the answer, and then we follow along. Well, we can be the leader in it. Yes.
Regarding mental health, it's right now the process is that they want to contract out with a private business.
Yes, they do, yeah.
And that's the goal they have right now. And I don't know if that is good.
It's off the table now.
Is it off the table?
It's off the table now because the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, when they put out the request for proposals for the private entities to be able to pick off where they want to be, the Supreme Court said that's unjust. You can't do that. And it's technically the county's responsibility to institute and make sure that the mental health services are being allocated correctly.
Working for the community.
Working for the communities, yeah.
However, recently, actually, Natalie and I were just talking about this the other night. So up at the Lighthouse, I run a whole bunch of grants, right? I run 30 or 40 grants. And earlier this year, I got a mandate. Mandate, we love that word. We love the word mandate. I got a mandate, so I had to go through my grants and take out key words, key triggering words. The list of these words I couldn't say indigenous and a community. I couldn't say historical. The list of
That's why.
I couldn't say woman. You can't say woman or community in a community feminine grants. You can't say historical, a museum grant. The list of words is both mine. After I was done going through these grants and taking out these words, it looked like the redacted Epstein files. There's nothing left. There's no substance left anymore. So if you have a mental health bill or a mental health grant in your community, and you don't redact those words, or you say that you're trying to help specific people, you lost your grant. Your mental health funding is for it. But whoever got that grant in the first place, even though they lost it, still gets to say they got that grant, right? They still get to say we pulled that grant, even though they lost it and can't use it anymore.
Wait, stand up, introduce yourself, and let people know what you're running for.
Thank you.
I haven't had my coffee yet. I am Rachel Hughes, and I am running for your district, the 100th
I don't know, it's-
district here. I'm not sure who I'm running against because they haven't figured it out. But there is, 6 carbon copies of the last 12 years. So if whatever's happened in the last 12 to 15 years is cool with you, then there's 6 carbon copies ready to come in and continue it. But if any of the things, if you don't want to see the Hiawatha Forest being sold to Singapore and China, if you don't want to see more hospitals closing, and I'm not saying some hospitals closing, you've already lost 4. If you want to see more hospitals closing, you want to see more lands gone, if you're fine with the status quo the way it is, then there's 6 carbon copies ready to jump in and take over. But I'm that other option, right? I'm the other option on the bill that says not in my Michigan, not in my Upper Peninsula, not in my God's country, and I am that option. So let's do that instead. But anyway, let's get back to Hayden. So I like to start my Mondays.
I don't think people understand how grants work. Do you want to explain?
So there's a difference between federal and state grants. And typically speaking, what you'll see around here in mental health is a federal grant. There isn't a lot of state budget for that. I'm pretty sure we're pulling a lot of our budgets into, it's called roads, but I don't see it going into roads. It's downstate. So all that money for funding goes downstate. You could still say you got the grant for Michigan, but it doesn't come upstate because the population isn't here. A lot of federal grants are based on population density, which is a thing we don't have. So we can't say we have the need compared to these richer population, more populated density areas.
Which flies in the face of this supposed Republican takeover of rural country, right?
It does fly in the face of it, but every accusation is a confession, right? Every accusation is a confession. So, for example, you'll see one of the 6 gentlemen that's running against me, Daryl Schroeder, he's always talking about this federal grant that he's working on to build houses in this area. And he's really hitting in on, he's going to bring housing into this area, right? And that sounds great. That's what people want to hear. They're desperate for housing. But he's building houses on federal grants that people here can't afford because he gets funding from private equity firms. He builds houses that private equity firms can buy and then rent to you at prices you still can't afford. Because in the last 15 years that Republicans have been in charge here, our wages have stayed so stagnant that you can't get no bank is going to give you a mortgage unless you make a minimum of $86,000 a year. Raise your hand if you know anybody that makes $86,000 a year. So they're building houses, and that looks great on paper, and he can shout that from the rooftops for his voters. But nobody here can afford those houses, and private equity will get them.
What are private equity?
Private equity firms are those big corporations. These, you know what though? The problem with it is they are also tied to you. So when you put into your 401k, that money goes into a private equity firm who takes your money and buys these houses or does whatever they do with it, and you definitely see the benefit of that in your 401k, right? So it's kind of that too big to fail. We don't want private equity firms to fail because your 401k goes down with it. We have to separate those two, or make those grants useful for people that need them. I love the idea of using federal grants to build housing. I don't love the idea of using federal grants to build $500,000 housing. I love the idea of using it to build starter homes. Or you can even use it, there's some really fun grants out there. One that comes to mind is like the lease to own. So what essentially it would do is give your community, your town, the town of Menominee, a pot of money to buy houses in the community. But it starts with a legislation that looks like private equity firms are not allowed to even make an offer on a home unless it's sat on the market for 120 days. Because that gives people, actual humans, a chance to come in and buy that house. So you just set legislation that says for 120 days the house is on the market, private equity firms can't come in and scoop it up. Because that's what happens. That's what happens almost every time. And then it turns into a rent scoop, right? That little house that could have been somebody's house is now 3 rental apartments that are slumlorded. So that first legislation says we don't let them come in right away. And then on top of that, we can add back legislation that says it's rent to own. So the city of Menominee comes through, buys these houses, and then rents them back at a lease to own to community members who can't get a mortgage because you don't make that $86,000 threshold. So then the city has steady income coming in on affordable rent, and then a path to ownership for actual residents. If they decide not to buy that house and leave, then it was just income for the city that they can use to buy more houses and continue this sort of running trade. That's a system that you can't really shout from the rooftops because you didn't apply for grants, and it's just a community organized effort. And you don't need Lansing for that. You just need somebody at your community organizing level that can organize that. Yes.
In cases like that, your city council has to be willing to work.
Yes.
All right? And you have to pay very, very close attention as to who you elect to sit on that council.
Precisely.
Yes.
Precisely. At every level, you have to pay attention to who you elect. Because we've gotten to the opposite situation where we have not been paying attention to who we're electing, and now this, exactly what you're talking about, is happening.
Yes, we've abdicated our responsibility.
Yes. As far as, and I hate to say it like this, but a lot of Americans, politics stops at the election. After the election's over, nobody's looking anymore. And then they can just kind of run shop, the way they have been. People voted and they were excited. They were so excited that the Republicans won in the Upper Peninsula. How many of those people that were excited when that happened do you think know that now 5% of the Upper Peninsula is owned by Singapore? Singapore owns more of the Upper Peninsula than Singapore. There's 3 times the amount of land mass in the Upper Peninsula than the actual country of Singapore. Do you think those Republican voters would be super happy about that? No, absolutely not. But they don't know because politics stops at the election.
But I think
I like that politics stops at the election, but in talking with Republicans, and I mean my friends, okay?
Yeah.
They seem to be hung up on the fact that Democrats want to give everything away. And these are low-income people. They're under, $70,000 a year. And they're working very, very, very hard to have very, very, very good lives. And they figure if the Democrats get in, we're going to lose what we have worked for because they're going to give everything away.
And that did scare them in the past. But what they're seeing right now is all that hard work is being taken away anyway.
Well, Dum
Because all
Dum
your
has
hard
been
work-
helping us, but by the same token, you still have to get that message through because they're not hearing it yet.
Yeah, they're
Many
not
of them
doing it
aren't.
yet. They are, and they won't listen. Like, that's just it, right? When talking with everybody else, here I am today preaching to the choir. Thank you for being my choir. But they're not listening to me. No, nothing more that a Republican man likes more than a mouthy Indian woman. I'll tell you that.
Well, I hate to tell you this.
Women in general, they're not hearing us.
Mike and I have sat up in the county where it's heavy, heavy Republican, and we've got these people working hard, and they're afraid of liberals, okay? But we sat with 9 others one Saturday,
But what are they afraid
and
of, right?
only one person was going to vote for Dum Dum.
What are they afraid of, really? Are they afraid of losing their health care that they're already losing? Are they afraid of their losing their insurances? That they're already
No,
losing.
we're going to make them turn gay.
You're going to make
And we're going to make them
gay?
go to their gay nephew's weddings.
But they aren't actually afraid of that. That's
Yes,
their
they
talking
are.
point, right?
Yes,
because
they
if I
are.
say to you, you can say arbitrarily they're going to turn you gay, and I say I'm going to turn you gay, and they go, not me, you're not.
It
Not
isn't so
me.
much fear
I
as it
don't
is
think you have to
disgust.
worry as much
I think you're right.
about one of the 85 different definitions of a human being
Yeah,
now.
that's only about what percent of the population.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
focus
that's
on
the
that.
issue. The issue is they've been brainwashed. Okay, and we've got to start really, really focusing on what we are about, and that's the
So
people
here's
in
a story
affordability.
that let me so I was raised by my grandfather, and he was an Assemblies of God pastor, but he wasn't soft. He was an Assemblies of God pastor at the Kinloss Correctional Facility because he didn't want to preach to the choir. He wanted to take the word of God to people who needed it, right? But don't get me wrong, he was a tough guy, and so he was a big fan of letting people learn from their own mistakes. He would let you do it. And if you did the same mistake over and over, he would never stop you. He would never correct you. He wouldn't lecture you or tell you how you were wrong. He would just let you do it. And then when you were done, he would say in his big booming grandpa voice, "Good for you. Do it again." That's how I feel about Republicans. I can preach at them and tell them and talk to them all day long. But until they look and see the 15 years of mistakes they're repeatedly making, and then a list of 6 carbon copies of that, I can just look at them and say, "Good for you. Do it again." And eventually that will have to sit with them because they're not going to listen to me telling them that they're wrong. They have to see it themselves.
I don't know that we have time for that.
We don't have
I mean,
time.
there are a number of people that I think are persuadable at this point, and we have to find the right entry and build a relationship with people so they can actually hear us. Otherwise, we sound like crazy liberals.
Yeah. And I don't want to be preaching and telling people they're wrong.
Yeah.
I want
But
them to
you
come to that
do have to
themselves.
listen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of easy.
It's
Have you ever
not
talked to a toddler?
All of this all the time.
So I was
You
talking
have to
about Kelly
listen
with this.
and ask them what
we
are
had
they
a-
concerned about.
The
But
Farm
be
Bureau
ready.
guy, right?
Yeah.
So the Farm Bureau are a bunch of they scheduled their meeting to talk with me for my potential endorsement at 10:15 at night on a Tuesday night. So they're clear. I know already these guys aren't here to hear me. And I see them on the Zoom and they're asking me all these loaded questions about how I'm a libtard and all that stuff. And I kind of just rolled it off. And then when the whole thing was over and they really felt like they got me, they said, "Do you have any questions for us?" And I said, "Yeah, I sure do. How do you feel about the tariffs and how they've been affecting farmers? And how do you feel about the land being sold to China and Singapore?" And for the rest of our conversation, those Republican farmers told me how terrible those things are and how somebody needs to stop the Republicans from doing it. All of a sudden, protecting the land and stopping the data centers and stopping Enbridge and stopping the gold mine, that was their idea, not even mine. Because I just had to plant that seed and have it become their idea. So they can preach it to me. I don't need to tell them when it's their idea. Those men will tell me what I need to know. And it turns out I'm on their team on that. Weird how that worked out.
I think how I perceive the problem is it's too much ego. The ego plays such a big role in politics.
Yes.
Instead of working for what needs to be done, they focus on themselves.
Which is
And how do you get rid of people who have a big ego?
you make it seem like it's their idea. Like you do with your husband or your toddler. You make it seem like it's their idea. And 100% they love it.
Yeah, that's
You're a group of healthy women. You know how to handle men. That's what you do. You make
so
it their
that's
idea,
what
right?
I'm looking for.
We've been
I'm
doing it for
an ego
decades.
person.
This week, one of Robert Reich's articles emphasized the fact that younger people, maybe people who've never even voted before, are so ingrained in TikTok and YouTube that Facebook and Skype and all these other things are not doing it for them. Do we have a big presence in our UP Democratic Party? TikTok, YouTube?
I'm on TikTok.
Okay,
I'm on Blue Sky.
okay,
X. I hate X, but Jesus.
okay.
Because I refuse to go on it. I have never been a Twitter X person, but I have social media presence. But everywhere I go, and I was just in Ironwood day before yesterday, and I was with a group, and it was all older people, right? And this man said, well, Kelly, if you look around, what do you see? And I said, well, not to be rude, but I see all older people, right? And he's like, right, so how are you going to get to the youth? And I go, with all due respect, there are no youth in the UP. There aren't. When you look at if you look at what percentage our 44 and younger are versus 45 and higher, I mean, every master plan in every county is available online. You can see what the percentage of population is. I don't have to, of course, I do what I'm supposed to do to reach the young voters, just coming up 18 and older. But, I mean, for example, when I graduated high school, my graduating class was 360. My daughter graduated 20 years later, and it was 99. So when you look at that over 20 years of, our aged population going way high, the graduates moving away to go to college and not coming back, like, I have to focus on my aged population. You guys are the majority. So we've been, like, trained to ask ourselves, what are we going to do to reach the youth vote? But we also have to look at our strategic numbers, which she and I do on the daily, and my campaign manager do, and we look to see what our young voter population is. It's very minimal.
Yeah.
And for Rachel's point, when we were over in McMillan this past week, she talked about the fact that a lot of her tribe members don't vote.
Yeah.
So
outside of tribal elections.
Yeah,
Right.
outside of tribal elections.
They feel less and less a part of.
But if I had to pick and choose about getting online for the younger generation or going to the tribes, I'm going to the tribes.
Also, I find that the TikTok generation, you can reach them all you want on TikTok. They aren't coming on TikTok. They're not going to their polling place. They aren't going to canvases. A nice way to reach young people that actually want to do things, that actually have that drive to get out and help, is to do it outside. So one of the effective ways is like a 5K. They'll come out and run with you. They'll come out. A cleanup. If I say I'm having a beach cleanup, I might get a few elderly people, but I get youth. That's who shows up for those things. You don't reach them in the ether bubble of nonsense. You get them out into their actual world doing things. And there are tons of youth that are about that life.
So we talk, we see that the younger people on TikTok are like supporting Mamdani and AOC and Bernie Sanders and Abdul, and those are huge races. But first of all, we don't spend enough time in our public school system educating about the local and state politics, right? And so, nobody knows what the difference is between 108, young people, but, the difference is between a 108 vote seat and a state Senate seat. They don't understand. They couldn't even show you where the capital of Lansing is on a map.
They don't even know where they are in that.
So, I mean, we have to go way back about educating, and it was like that with my race in 2022 as a county commissioner. I was worried about teaching people how to vote independent because I ran that race as an independent. What I needed to be teaching them was what district they were, what a county commissioner does,
where they vote. Physically, where do you go?
And I will say that there is hope for the younger people, though, because there's a young teller that works at Peninsula Credit Union where I do my banking for campaigning. I always go to him because he's a member of a band. And he asked me yesterday, he goes, "Can you hang on for a second?" And I said, "Sure." And he went and got 4 of his co-workers, and they all come to me and they said, "If we want to vote for you, where do we go?"
Congratulations.
Because they see my I come in with my campaign checks and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I will gladly tell you what's your address, because I knew the recall from when we did the recall. I knew where I had to tell people to go and vote for each of the respective commissioners. I go, "What's your address?" And so they're like, "Oh, you go." I said, "You go to this Escanaba City Hall. You go to the Civic Center, and you are in Escanaba Township, so you vote here." And they're like, "Well, do we all get to vote for you?" And I'm like, "Yes, you do. This time you do, because last time they couldn't." And so there is. Yeah, they told me. Yeah.
So we're doing pop-up events, and yesterday we had a table at the Pride Knock event in Escanaba, and 28 people they talked to, and they gathered 5 or 6 new email addresses, and primarily the information that's out right now is you can make a difference, and here's how you vote.
Good.
Are you registered? Let's look it up right now. Here's how you do it.
Yeah. we drove back from where were we? Oh, we were in Stonington yesterday. And I saw the tables, and I'm like, no, because it was still May. I was waiting for it to happen in June. I didn't know it was going to happen in May. But ask Rachel a bunch of questions. She's ready.
Oh yeah, other questions?
She said her coffee.
Well, my youngest brother is 14 years younger than me. The reason why he votes Republican is because he wants his 401k to keep making money.
Okay.
And he's also a
Well, his 401k is taking a hit today, I'll tell you that.
Well,
I
I
tell
guess
them, that's what I keep telling people. The best campaigner for me is Donald Trump. Just keep doing what he's doing, and I'll win. You win. You just gotta keep on doing it.
I was all upset that your gas here was $3.69. I was like, hey.
Some of the things I like. So my brother also, he is a Republican, but he doesn't vote.
good. Yay.
And that's one of the things I always say, like, keep going for the team. And that's a lot of things I'm hearing responding is that I'm not out into politics. I'm just not going to vote. They won't say they'll vote Democrat, but they'll sit down and shut the fuck up, and I'm happy with that too. That's plenty good enough for me. So I don't need, you can't please everyone, but it's really easy to make them all mad. That part's really easy. So if they'll just sit down and be quiet, they're doing their part as far as I'm concerned.
The first time my mom voted was in 2022, and then she was all upset that she couldn't vote for me because she didn't live in the same district as me. She goes, the only reason I'm voting is because of you, and your name's not on the ballot. And I go, you should... What are you talking about?
What are you
entire life you never voted? And she goes, well, it's just one vote. It doesn't count. I mean, it just goes down to the electoral college anyway. What does my vote count? And I was just like, I'm not hearing this. I'm not hearing this. I'm not hearing this.
Yeah, my brother is a 40-year-old man. He's 40. And I went over to his house and I said, Jake, I want to tell you that before you see a sign or before anybody tells you I'm going to run for office. And he said, well, that's stupid. What a waste of your time. Even if you do become president of the United States, the next person's just going to come in after you and undo everything you did. And I was kind of a little disheartened by that. I thought I was going to get more support from him. Then a couple days later, he came back and he was like, okay, so where's your signs? If you're going to run for president of the United States, you're going to have some signs. And I said, do you think I'm running for president? He's a 40-year-old man, and he has no concept of how an election works, of how Michigan Senate works. They just don't know. Because it doesn't matter to them. It's a problem.
It's a lack of education.
Yes.
And what is in there for the young people when they vote? What can we give them?
Well, the one lady or the one young girl that waited on me in Houghton at the coffee house, when I gave her my brochure, she said, will you get me health care? And I said, yes, I will.
That's the goal.
You know, that, I mean, a 19-year-old girl, she's like, she goes, I don't know what I want to do with my life, right? And she goes, and I'm staring down the fact that in 6 years, I'm going to get cut off my parents' health insurance. What if I have a health crisis? What if nobody wants to throw me a spaghetti benefit to help me with, whatever's going on? And I'm like, why are we having to throw spaghetti benefits to begin with?
Especially the people that are like, I hate socialism. Please go fund my surgery.
Yeah.
They don't understand what those
Being
are
a woman
buzzwords
of-
and scary terms.
Being a woman of childbearing age, that's a pre-existing condition, and it'd be harder for her to get it.
Yeah, so that's the kind of things that people hear those scary buzzwords and they run away from. Like socialism is a scary, scary word until you need a GoFundMe. And then it's just for me, it's just one person. As long as everybody else is doing it.
It's a lack of education. You really need to bring.
Or that ego, like you were talking. It's fine for me. It's only bad when immigrants do it. It's okay when I do it, but it's not okay when women do it. If I can do it, that's just fine. But if black people are doing it, they're taking advantage. It's sort of a free for me situation. And you can't talk people out of that, unfortunately. You can't talk people out of it. Yes, sir.
I was at the state conference in Detroit, and our the Democrats there. I went to the senior caucus, and everybody there, like there was people like in wheelchairs lined up against the wall, and there were people sitting there because they couldn't stand or do anything, but they were really mad. And the candidates who came through, who said, yes, we understand who's that? Like Abdul and Ellie Savitt
Oh yeah.
and Gilchrist. Yeah, and Gilchrist. They came through as really being tough against Republicans, and every damn thing they did was wrong.
Aggressive.
You guys are feeling it right now. We feel it too, and we are gonna kick butt on this, and we're gonna gonna get to it, you know. And
Rachel and I are ready to kick their asses.
Unfortunately, the
and
Democratic Party is not behind that. The Democratic Party is the one trying to temper that.
Yeah.
That's saying that's not what Democrats want. They want a level head. They want a calm attitude. No, they don't. No, they do not.
Well,
Who is they? Because that's what we have.
and here's the deal, right? Truman Patel, who hosted us in Ironwood, he said, this is what happens, is that the Democrats are always so nice, right? Oh, we're snowflakes. We cry. We start melting. Oh my gosh. The Republicans just run over us every election. We just need to be kind. We need to be bipartisan. We need to work across the table. And then all of a sudden, when we do grow some balls and show that we're not going to put up with this shit anymore, like when they were booing Haley Stevens off the stage at the MVP convention because we've had enough of AIPAC and we've had enough. Now we're violent. Now we're contentious. Now we need to come together. We got to quit eating our own. It's like, no. Now is the time where we have to stand up and we have to say the shit is done. And I had that in my primary before my challenger bowed out. They're like, you should do a video together with Chris Mapps and say you're both equally qualified candidates. Our real enemy is the Republicans. I go, why would I give Chris Mapps any of my time? And I want you to explain to me why you think Chris Mapps is a viable candidate. Tell me right now. Not just because he has a D after his name, but I want you to tell me if he wins how he's going to beat the Republicans, because I can tell you he ain't going to do it. And then he bowed out of the race 2 weeks later. So I'm like, if I would have given him my time, if I would have been that little sweet Kelly, that kind, but it's not time to be nice. I get men who tell me I have to smile more, and I said, I'm not going to smile. There's nothing to smile about. We're fighting for a democracy here. Oh, Kelly, you got to calm down. I'm not going to calm down. Because if I calm down, they're going to slide in and they're going to take this race away from me. You need to listen to us. Well, I'm not going to listen to you when I know you're talking in rooms that I'm not in about what I need to do and how I need to do things your way, but you're not telling me these things. No, I'm not going to stand. I'm not going to stand for that stuff. And so, because I'm not the establishment, because I'm not willing to do things the way things have always been done, because look where it's gotten us. It's lost us everything in the UP. And you're not going to control me, and you're not going to tell me how to run my race. Now we're having problems, right? Now everybody's like, oh, I don't know if I can support you anymore. Fine. Get out of the way then.
Yep,
Either get on board or get out of the way, because I'm not going to stop anything. Brandon, I feel poor Brandon Walter. I go, I know I'm a lot. I'm sorry. But now is the time where we have to be.
I think if ever there's been a time to turn our counties and the UP, it's now. I have never seen such an opportunity as what we have.
Though, because the things we're getting feedback is you need to dull your Indian side because it turns out voters, or you need to dull your feminine side because it turns out voters. I'm not here to trick people. If what I'm offering isn't what you want, then I hope you get what you vote for. I'm not here to trick you. If what you want is what's happening, I'll see back to my little lighthouse and go right back where I was. But if it's not, I'm not tricking you. This is it. This is the option I give you. And if it's what you want, you got all of it. You got all of it all the time.
And I'm very pleased to see what you're talking, because you're not going to get intimidated. Oh, by those politicians.
Love me a captive audience.
Those politicians, they are trained.
Well, that's not, it's not unreasonable. So, there's the kind of a running joke that most people are so afraid of public speaking that if you were at a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy. And that's one of the big things of being a politician, is to have that fortitude to stand and talk to people. And a lot of times that is scary for people, and I can understand that. I can understand that being intimidating. I'm not going to hold that against anybody. That being said, I don't need a mic. You're going to hear me just fine.
That's right, both of you.
The other thing is having the knowledge, and both of you have done a lot of homework and studying on this, having the knowledge when some bullshit comes out of somebody's mouth that sounds good, to be able to say, yeah, but.
Well, and I'm not going to stand for liars, right? I did that when I was in the recall race, and one of the commissioners was at the podium, and I was still in the audience because I was just a citizen, and he said something, and I go, "You're a liar," and then I got gavelled. You're out of order. I said, "I'm not going to let you lie. Quit lying." And boom, boom, boom.
Is Bola Fave running against you?
It's either going to be Bola Fave or Dave Preston.
So that's what we're talking about with the tricking. So Bola Fave, his famous movie, you know who he is? You guys have seen it? So he lost his leg to a childhood illness, right? So he wears a prosthetic leg. And he wears a prosthetic American flag leg. And he wears his grandfather's Purple Heart. And when people thank him for his service, he says, yes, pleasure. He has never been in the military. But he is tricking people into thinking that. And when you say, you've never served, he says, no, they're thanking me for my time in the legislature. But he's obviously trying to trick his voters. It's an obvious trick.
And now his new thing is that he's putting his signs out in all of public places. So like alongside the roads, in front of libraries, and he's saying, my tax dollars pay for those roads, and my tax dollar pays for that library. So this is part of my First Amendment right. Try and take down those signs. I will sue you. That's just tricking. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you should follow the rules. You should, like, if you need to put, like, because he goes, well, I got 500 signs originally, and I ordered 1,000 more because they're in such high demand. Well, if one yard has 5 signs in it, yeah, but signs don't go. People do. If there's only one person that lives in that house, it doesn't matter if there's 5 signs out there.
I drove 232 miles to be here, across the entire 108, and I saw 2 political signs. 2 the entire way.
One was coming into Menominee.
One was coming into Menominee, Preston, and the other one was a big giant Daryl Schroeder sign. Oh, okay. Which I think was at his mom's house.
How many did you see on my front lawn, though? 5?
Yeah, your house is, you're really carrying the county here.
Natalie, you want a big sign? I just ordered them.
Who's on a dead end? Oh, but I told her, like, she's right where the airport is. I just want to put, like, a parachute on her back lawn that says, well, just every plane that lands goes right over it.
I do have a handful of these right now. If anybody wants to take
I'm going to get big ones. I just put the
I can't because signs on the highway are off the highway and it's tough like I can't legally. I do. See, well, you do the most part.
I think Preston's a bigger concern than you don't.
You go, girl. You go.
The way that we work the numbers and what we've seen from going all across the UP, and everybody asks me who I think my opponent is going to be. It's more Bo than Preston. Preston has a stronghold down here.
He has a strong.
But Bo has it everywhere else.
You know, let me ask you guys. I wanted to see what you thought about this because I have my own opinion, but so across the United States, in these last elections, we've seen Democrats been carrying the election. But in the primaries, the Republican primaries, all of Trump's backed candidates were picked. Do you think that was strategic? Do you think that they are really riding that MAGA wave and the Republicans are going to go all in? Or do you think that it was a conscious effort to vote for the worst candidate? Because that's something they've been pushing out on like NPR, and a lot of people online are saying Democrats go in and vote for the worst candidate because then you have your best option. That's how we got Trump.
Texas.
But it seems to be their sort of MO, and it worked. But now that's what I'm thinking. I'm seeing all of Trump's back candidates win primaries.
Yeah,
is it going to be a slaughter?
I mean, she's got 6, and she thought that it was going to be Casey.
I did think it was going to be.
But like when you talk to people here about Casey Hoffman,
no.
Oh, you're hiding against Casey?
That's me.
Oh my God.
and I told her I was going to
Don't worry, girl. You can get around him.
I thought he was going to be my biggest contender until I
Oh, boy.
He is smooth. You have to be careful. He's very smooth.
very smooth.
He's a showman.
Speaking of liars, that's Casey incarnate.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm very concerned about transparency. Okay, because with transparency, you have to bring truth.
Yes, that's it. That's the whole point of this, right? That's what we're lacking.
And that's what they don't want. They want to make it personalities.
They want to make it personal, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about emotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No one's ever come at me. None of my opponents have ever come at me about my policy. I've gotten a lot of questions about where I chose my outfit. Couldn't I have worn a little makeup for this? They're making it very personal, but no one's ever said, what's your housing policy?
Okay, but that's it. And it's not just your policies or policies of the future, it's what is happening to yesterday's policies and how they're eroding. To me, the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin keeps going through my mind, and it's got different people following the music.
Right. So a lot of times you can say with that too is people are afraid of more regulation and more legislation and just more and more and more and more. Understandably so, right? I'm an Indian woman. I'm not going to stand here and say that more government involvement is going to make
I'm
things
real
better.
sorry,
That's not
but
what's done for me.
if it wasn't for the abuse of power and position, you wouldn't need the regulation.
That's right.
But we have those things in play now, and they're just not being enforced.
They're not holding up.
We don't need to pass new legislation. We just need to enforce the legislation you have.
That's right.
Like you can take gun control. We're always like gun control, and the Republicans are like, absolutely not. And I say, I don't want to pass new laws. I would just like to enforce the laws we have. How many times have you opened Facebook Marketplace and seen a code word for a gun for sale? That's right in your face. You know it's illegal. The cops are on there in your community. They know what's happening, and they ignore it. You can enforce that law. That's gun regulation.
Yep.
We don't have to pass new regulation. We have to stop back. You can go online and buy a printed piece of a gun and put one together yourself. That is very much against the law, but it is absolutely not enforced. So we don't have to talk about reinventing the wheel. We just have to talk about actually using the wheel we already have.
Very good point. I like that.
Yeah, and again, you'll hear Republicans rally about how I'm an environmentalist and I want to take away your gun rights. I am a bear hunter. I am a deer hunter. I am a duck hunter. I am a rabbit hunter. I am a goose hunter. I hunt. I am protecting this forest not to take your gun rights away, but because I know that Preston Davis hunts on 200 acres of his own private land, but I hunt on public land. My deer lane is in the Hiawatha Forest. So you selling it for timber affects my gun rights. And now the Republicans are listening to my environmental speech. It became their idea the whole time.
You're doing a good job.
Oh, thank you. I never said that.
What do you think that is?
Both of you are doing a good job, by the way.
Like, when did the UP decide to work environmentalists?
The UP did not decide that. Our 5 white landowning Republican male voters decided, or legislators decided that.
Like every time they come at us about being an environmentalist, and it's like we live in the UP.
That's that buzzword,
Why are we
right?
not? Why are you not?
That's a buzzword that got negative connotation because of MAGA.
Right.
Liberal, progressive. The word Antifa is now a bad word because of propaganda, right? Antifa is a bad word. Are you kidding me right now? I'm going to put on my vet hat and go, are you friggin' kidding me right now? I can't be anti-fascist. I really
Well,
want
that's
to
because even our world policies have changed.
Rachel, tell them about your service, your time in the service. Many don't know.
Yeah, okay, so I was in the Navy for 8 years on board the USS Iwo Jima. I did 2 tours in the Middle East and 2 peacekeeping tours in South America. I was a fire controlman, which is a weapons expert. I worked on a bunch of advanced radar systems and missile launching systems. And then when I got out of the service, I worked for the Department of Defense as an anti-ship cruise missile defense weapons specialist, where I would just go to different bases around the world and teach the Navy how to fight. I would do like war games and teach them how to fight. And that was about 15 years. I was out of this community in Virginia Beach and all over the place. War games.
I think that's
It doesn't really
important to
translate into
stress.
civilians, like unless Iowa gets real feisty. It doesn't
I
really.
think you learned how to fight.
Yes, absolutely. I learned how to fight men.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I learned how to fight very much in ego men too, because you're in the military and that's what you were surrounded by. A bunch of men that are super in charge. And if you make it their idea You make it their idea. It works every single time. I'm telling you. It's almost too easy.
I think that's an important point for you to stress.
Yeah,
That you have been out of the UP. You're just not born, raised, and never left.
no, but all my degrees come from the UP. I hold a degree from Lancaster State University in cannabis business management, if that could seem useful around here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
So, yeah, and all my education comes from the Upper Peninsula. I'm born and bred. I know I like to hear, I'm a big fan of James Tallarico. Do you guys follow Tallarico?
Oh, yeah.
I like to call myself a Tallarico, Democrat, a Tallarico, Christian, and not whatever. I'm a Tallarico, right? And he's very similar in that effect too, where he really likes to take, like you were saying, how did they become anti-environmental? Well, it was sort of like a divorce in the United States. And for whatever reason, the Republicans said that they claimed gun rights, they claimed hunting, they claimed God, however, they claimed veterans, they claimed all that stuff. So when the Democratic Party came to me and they said, will you please run? Because on paper, you are a Republican. And I said, excuse me very much. But on paper, I am a veteran. I am a mother. I've been married to my husband for 16 years. My only husband. I don't have 4 of them in the closet with 12 different children. On paper, I'm very palatable to Republicans because they think they own those things. They think if I'm a veteran and a Christian and a good family person, well, those are all Republicans. They own those things. And I'm here to show you that very much you do not. Very much you do not.
And when we went up to TV6 and got interviewed by Andrew Lawrencer, not TV6, it was My UP News Now.
Yeah, My UP.
And he kind of likes to jab, right? And he's like, oh, so let's start off. What do you feel about the Second Amendment? And I go, I support all the amendments. It's my job to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, including all its amendments. I don't cherry pick my amendments. I have guns. I just don't need to talk about it every day.
I always say, I'm concealed carry permitted. Have my packet right now. Do you want a bet? Do you want to take the bet?
I always just say, I have guns, moving on, and I'm like, and then they say, well, what about abortion? And I said, well, I don't believe that the government should be telling me or anyone what we can do with our body. Don't we want smaller government, less government, not more government? So why are we okay with the government just telling half the population, telling us what we can do at all? Right? And then I'm like, small government, that works for us. And they're like, oh no, small government, that's
their thing.
I go, no, I'm taking it back. Just like when Alyssa Slotkin wore red for the first time, and she said, Democrats can wear red too. And I was like, yes, we can. Yes, we can. So, and same thing, well, what do you think about, religion? And I said, well, I'm a practicing ELCA Lutheran. I believe in God. I don't have to tell other people that I believe in God, and I don't have to pray at meetings because I don't pray on demand. And I really don't think God's worried about what decision I'm making at the county commission when there's people dying of cancer all over the world, or dying of famine, or Ebola, or the Hunter virus, or whatever the next catastrophe is going to be. I don't think God's worried about whether I'm going to make a good decision at the Delta County Board of Commissioners, so I don't need to pray at that meeting. But I pray on my own, So move that aside. I'm not a communist. I'm not anti-God. I'm not anti-gun. I'm not, killing babies. I'm not doing anything like that. So let's get down to the bare bones of stuff. Where are our tax dollars going, and has it been working for us for the last 8 years? And my opponents, 15 years, have all worked in the legislature. And where did that get us? So give me the shot to try something different, because you can either go backwards in time. Preston worked in the legislature, or does. Bo worked in the legislature. Cam Benzie worked in the legislature. Where did it get us?
That's what they say, right? If you want to keep going in reverse, go R. If you'd like to put the country back in drive, you're going to need to put it in D. And also, you're going to need the keys.
Call Singapore. They might buy some of your property.
Yeah. So, we know what we're doing. We're going to get there.
Okay, you run against McBroom. Okay.
No.
Against Preston.
Perhaps, yeah.
For McBroom's job.
Yeah.
Do you know did he follow through all the promises he made?
She's asking if her predecessor followed through on all of his campaign promises in the last election.
And that's a key because he doesn't follow through.
Right.
And
No, Dave Preston. Yeah.
that is a big key because he and mental health are very, very upset with him.
Yeah.
She bring the problems to him. He said he will take care of them, and he never did. Okay, so if you could get him out.
That's a good idea. I like that. I don't have any
It's very important because people are interested in mental health.
Yes.
They can get the services they need, and he always promised he will solve the problem, and he never did.
They're too busy fighting with Eagle and the DNR and getting the big energy up here. I mean, all I have to do is, in order to
Bring out.
all I have to do is go on his voting record, and then go on his campaign finance because he's taking money from Big Energy, and that's all he's talking about is energy, right? Data centers, mining, things that aren't going to be long-term beneficial to the Upper Peninsula
And not to the community.
and not to the communities.
And that's
right?
the winters.
And that's the
We're
winters.
not asking off. Everyone here is looking for the 50-point buck. That's who wins the election. You shoot a bigger deer and you're in. Nobody wants data centers in the hunting lanes.
She goes, you need to get out in the woods with a gun and camo. I go, I don't hunt. I'm not. We're not going to talk about that. Because I used to have pet ducks, and every time I see somebody with ducks, like I saw your Facebook thing with your ducks, and
Delicious.
I was like, oh my god.
They are.
Delicious. Organic.
Bring a picture of your last buck.
My last good buck too, and my buck is bigger than my husband's. So now
And
he
you
won't vote for
bears.
me.
And the
my
bears.
bear, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just telling that last night.
You should bring that. That would win a lot of people over. Especially
So last
guys.
night, the tribal chairman, her name is Vicky,
Not
she
left behind
hit a
me.
porcupine on the side of the road. She sent me a picture of the dead porcupine. She was like, Rachel, I got this porcupine. Do you want it? And I sure do. I really do. Look, these are porcupine. I sure do want it. But I was up here and I said, honey, you're going to have to do this one on your own. So I did. I talked her through how to process this porcupine and get the quills for it and things. And when I was done, I said, listen, welcome to the politicians who mess with roadkill club. It's just me, you, and RFK right now, but we're working on it.
This is not snakes.
Kelly, I would like to talk to you privately because there is a big proposal right now coming up from the state, and McBroom is heading it.
Are you talking about the mental health authority that he's trying to create?
Yes.
It's not going to hit the floor.
Well, because the communities are very upset about that.
Oh yes, I talked to Matt.
News control.
Yeah.
So that would be a big
I will talk
point.
to you.
I please talk to me.
She's very aware.
I have seen up here that you guys are not afraid to take matters into your own hands. I was watching on Zoom that community meeting about the block cameras. Woo, was I proud of you guys. Wooly. You guys don't even need a representative. You are handling business up here.
We're
And
going
tomorrow,
over to Marinette to support them over there because a lot of people want them out of
Same situation.
Marinette. So we're
They already
crossing
have
the
them.
bridge and going and standing with their people over
Yeah,
there.
you
That's
don't
tomorrow.
have to wait for the election. You can do this. You don't have to wait for any election. You can start handling things now.
And tonight in Escanaba, the Planning Commission is going into closed session to review the legal language on the 12-month moratorium for data centers. And you have to thank Dana for this one because Dana first alerted me to the fact that that data centers were looking to come up here and that we needed to get something in place at Delta County. So me as a county commissioner approached the planning commission that I used to sit on that I don't sit on anymore, which I am not happy about, but that's a discussion for another day. But I told them that they needed to start working on it, and it took 3 months to get it on the agenda after I started working on it. But now we're seeing some things move. So I'm really happy about that. So I'm expecting a packed house at Planning Commission tonight.
Not a girl.
Awesome.
Not a girl.
If we don't do it, right? If
They're
we
just
don't
going to run
speak up,
roughshod over it.
right? If we don't speak up, even though it's really hard, like I remember when I was, railing against the Escanaba City Council about stuff, I remember I would close my bakery, I would sit at Herford Hops, I would order food, and I would write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite my 3-minute spiel that I was going to give them. And I remember going up to the podium and just being so nervous, and my heart was pounding. And I thought, if I don't stand up and say something, because most of the time when something's happening to you or something happening to a member of our community, it's not just one person, it's happening to a lot of people. And nobody just knows where to go or how to stand up, right? So I went there, and I just remember my heart pounding, and here I am 6-7 years later running for state senate. But if I wouldn't have stood up and did that and fought for myself and started asking questions and demanding answers, and that's what I told people about the planning commission meetings. They're like, I don't know if I want to go and talk about this. And I said, even if you just get up and say, my name is this, and this is where I'm from, and I'm opposed to data centers. That's all you have to do. And once
That is really all it takes.
once you get your foot, your feet wet, and you start to feel more comfortable, that's where you make the impact. You start asking questions, and then you start getting involved, and then you start showing up, and then you show up again and again and again. And then your words matter to these people because they're happy you're showing up, and they're happy that you're taking a stand, whether it's for or against them. I mean, when we were doing at the county, when we were at the county and we were packing those meetings, right, because people were starting to see what was going on. Before we did that, there would maybe be 2 people sitting there in the audience, because I remember those days too. And now we're back to those days again. And I want people to stay engaged. Just because things are going right and things are going well doesn't mean you stop engaging. And I think that's what happened with the Democrats up in the UP over the last 20 years. We got complacent.
We felt like a losing battle all the time.
We know because we felt we were always deep blue, right? And so that's just the way it was. And then the first time stuff started to turn red, we were like, oh, what's going on here? We've always been blue. Why are we turning red? And nobody has answers, and we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to figure out why we aren't blue anymore, right? And so I think it's because we got complacent. Now we need to start getting active again, and that's the hard part, right? Yeah. So it's like it can be done. We can do this. We just gotta work it, and when we work it, we win it. And that's what I say all the time. Yeah.
It's actually been 2 years since our last Democrat and our last
And a big part of it was
messaging. We don't know how to message.
Democrats never confuse the message. It's this candidate here, that candidate here, and then the party wants to come in and take control of the message. You're like, well, that's not what I want to say. So the messaging, it needs to be deeply personal.
Yes.
Well, I think also too we see that, like she said, it just takes you literally just have to push back, like even just a little bit. Taco, we'll back down immediately. It just takes one person to say no, and they literally Taco. Trump always chickens out. They back down as soon as they hit any resistance. They back away. They just stop the fight.
And me and Republicans were really good at using fear. And and so they were just, so we need to get back to and people just get scared easily.
That sentence was hard to finish.
So people try to get back to calling the fact that you're losing things. The government is taking things. People cling on to that. Like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this or this or this. And so the Republicans get that from me, even though they don't get it. Right. They make a lot of promises, but what do they really follow through on? The guns. Obama was going to take away your guns. That was never happened. It still has not happened.
But what worked positively for Obama and for the Clintons? What was it that got them elected? Hope and change. So what they essentially was really bad Republican leadership directly before. The Bush administration directly before. So these Democrats almost didn't win on their own merit. They won on the fact that the Republicans were doing so friggin' bad that America said, enough. We need change. We need a hope for change. That was it. It wasn't even that Democrats are better. It was that I don't want this. And that's how voters look at their vote these days. They don't even vote for what they're inspired by. They vote for what they don't want. I don't want the Republican to win, so I'm going to vote for the Democrat. Do I believe in the Democrat? I don't really care. Vote D all the way down. I hate that mentality. I love that people say, vote D all the way. I hate that mentality because you need to know who you're voting for. Who could be a wolf in sheep's clothing? And that whole mentality of just ride the blue wave is BS. Because that's it. That's I don't want to be the directed base. I am a person. I am not a base to be directed. We need to put emphasis on the candidate instead of the party.
That 18 was a big blue wave, but McGill still was able to win here. So we're different out
4
here.
percentage points.
Yeah, we're different here. So we have to figure out a way to talk to people. We do, definitely. Like, you have to make that person want to invite them to our kitchen table. You need to get very personal with their issues. Going door to door is going to help that a lot. Because you can actually reach out and shake someone's hand personally, look them in the eye.
225 miles, 13,500 square miles.
Door to door is a trick.
Yeah.
The door to door is 12 miles between all doors, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
it is very important.
and what we're doing for our canvassing and lit drops. So first we're starting off with literature drops where we hit everyone, you know, in cities or whatever, because the ban system is outdated, and so you might you can't just use ban because we have to try to pick off centrist Republicans who don't want to vote for Trump. My campaign's a little different, so everybody is worried about the Cambenzi factor as running as an independent. Cambenzi is going to pick off the centrist Republicans who would have never voted for me anyways, right? So in my race, it's either Super MAGA from Bo, MAGA from Preston, Cambenzi the flip-flopper, or me as the strong Democrat, right? And so the people up in Marquette who voted for Cambenzi were really upset that she flip-flopped, right? She flipped to the Republicans, and then she went and worked for the Republicans, and then she went and worked for Matt Hall, and now she's running as an independent, right? And so we've been following her page since she announced, because we knew she was going to announce, you know, months before she actually did. And the only people she's picking up are Republicans. So she's actually
And the Democrats that voted for Carl Bowman.
and the Democrats that voted for Carl Bowman.
And she's for the mines.
Yes, and so
mining.
yeah, but here's the funny part. So I got the USW District 1 endorsement, which is the entire state of Michigan and Ohio, and then 2 days later, they came out and endorsed Cambenzi too. But the problem is, they didn't realize that they were endorsing the candidate who's not even on the ballot yet, because the miners got involved. Yeah.
Is she not on the ballot though?
She'll be on November. She voted, yeah.
Operating engineers. Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, like, these people are people who would have never voted for me anyways. So we're thinking she's gonna split the Republican vote, and I'm gonna be able to. Which is awesome.
Will she be still on the audience?
No.
Wait through to November.
She hasn't even turned in her ballots yet, or her petitions yet, so we don't even know if she's gonna be on the ballot.
And they're not strategically thinking, because it's gonna be a Democratic Senate. And so who are the Democrats gonna work with? Are they gonna work with Cambenzi? No. Are they gonna work with Bo or Preston? No. Are they gonna work with Kelly? Yes. Yeah. So do you want representation? Or not? How did you get that kind of cost of people? So it is.
Well, right, and so
There's 3 levels to each.
and what we're seeing right now is that I've never been even given the opportunity when I'm knocking at the door to even talk to people. You know, when it comes to labor, because labor is 60% membership is Republican. So it's easier.
Wild.
So it's easy.
Doesn't make sense.
Despite the hand of
Ask Kelly why though.
Oh, so I asked one of the miner guys why it was that their membership is Republican, and they said, because you're going to come take our guns. I go, I am. In the last 16 years, do you think that there's more guns, less guns, or the same amount of guns? And the guy said, well, I think I have more guns now. And I was like, okay, just let that sink in, you know. And then he said, well, it used to be that a Democratic candidate would come, and right after they announced, they would come to the unions. And I said, that's exactly what I did. And he says, oh, I know, but past candidates, they didn't do that. We became like 3rd or 4th. And I said, okay, 3rd or 4th to who? And he said the environmentalists, the LGBTQ community, and
Where
He
do
made up
they
a bunch of
meet?
talking
Where do
points.
they
He
meet?
made up a bunch of
And
talking
Where
points.
did you go to talk to
And
them?
so I said, okay. And he goes, you know what? I don't have a problem with the LGBTQ community. Whatever you want to do in your own house in your own time is your business. But I don't think that I should have to see it. And he goes, and I'm certainly not okay with kids pissing in litter boxes and wanting to be cats and rubbing up against me. And I said, you have somebody come and rub up against you and pretend they were a cat? And he goes, well, no.
But he's heard about it.
And I said, okay. And at that point, I knew there was nothing. There was nothing I could do. You know,
But that's mentality. That's what.
Yeah.
That's what.
So now today, Sarah Campesi got endorsed by the operating engineers. I've sent 8 emails to the operating engineers since August, and they never even offered me a chance to speak. That's just the way it goes. There's nothing I can do about it, right? So I have to go and I have to do the teachers, and I have to do the nurses, and I have to do the university professors, and the Teamsters, and the UAW, and the people, right? Because what we saw was that Karen McDonald for Attorney General got all the endorsements from labor. She got all the money, and where did it get her? Nowhere. She lost, right? And in a straight party ticket voting state, an independent cannot win.
Right.
And she won't be able to get anything done in the Senate for unions because no one will want to caucus with her because there's no such thing as an independent in the state Senate. You have to caucus with Dems or Republicans. The Dems wouldn't even give her a job after she was done in the legislature, so she went and worked for the
What are we
Republicans.
talking about?
You think you think that they're gonna work with her on the floor? The Senate is going to be blue. It's going to be bluer. It is not going to flip to red. There is no chance. If we get a red Senate, a red House, and a red governor, they ain't going to be worried about their project because they're not going to have no unions left. They're going to be right back to right work like we had. But you just put it in those simple terms and they still don't get it. So I have to move on. You know? It's unfortunate because I'm pro-union, pro-labor, born and bred. You vote blue for your paycheck. You give the unions the voice. You fight for them. You walk with them. You don't cross the line for them, and they won't even open the door.
Every single union is irate right now up there. The prison unions, the teachers unions, the nursing unions, they're all absolutely irate. And they've been under Republican leadership for 15 years.
It took years.
Time for the ship. And they're all ready. They are irate. And all the Democrats on the eastern side are running specifically on the union for the prisons. There's 3 prisons in this district.
Yeah.
And they are major prisons.
Yeah.
Kinross is the second biggest prison in Michigan.
And they are struggling.
And they are. Just refused to put those to the governor. They passed.
They're just sitting on a table.
Where are our representatives? Why are they not at that house and giving those bills?
The only people showing up for them are the Democratic candidates. And they haven't even figured out their primary yet. Both of them are showing up hand in hand. Ryan Brendan and Melissa Parent are the 2 for the 107. And they are working together because they have the exact same platform. It's fix the union. Back the union. They're both riding 100% on that platform. The Republicans are not. Not at all. They're ignoring it completely.
That is the one thing. A couple of years ago, when Preston ran, no, it was the year after, we did a great big board and put it at the fair, showing what their votes for a union were. And McBroom was at 97% against and 100% for Preston. I don't know if those numbers still hold, but they're powerful.
The numbers are much because wasn't his freedom rating like a 4.3 or something? Yeah, 4.3. He's off the table.
Yeah. You mean
he has made a lot of money off dropping that. He has made a lot of money dropping those votes. He made a bunch of money off of this and moved one over to parasite the next one,
right?
Which has been the trend. That's what all of our previous Republican leadership has done in this area. They took what they could from here, and then they moved on to start parasiting the next one. And they have all more than quadrupled their personal wealth and doubled their land ownership in the UK.
Where are our previous Democrats?
Our previous Democrats, 15 years ago, Judy was our last one. That was 15 years ago. She was the last female and the last Democrat. I don't no idea where she went.
Really?
Did she pass away? She passed away, but yeah. And before that, I couldn't even tell you.
I reached out to Brucey multiple times. He's the last Democrat that had the Senate. He said, "You don't want my endorsement. When I endorse people, they lose."
Well, he was not much of a person anyway.
I did get Dave Anthony.
Yeah.
You did get Dave
Yeah,
Anthony?
Bart Stubeck said he won't endorse me because he's friends with Sarah Canbenzi.
And with Kelli van Ginhoven.
And with Kelly van Ginhoven, yeah.
Yeah. Don't
Right. He
don't
said
be sure that won't change.
Right, yeah.
He told you that he was friends with Kelly?
No.
Oh,
What? So Bart Stubeck's been my mentor for a long time, for many years. But when I asked him for endorsement, he said that Sarah Canbenzi worked for him, or he knew her for a long time.
they were
And so he just wasn't going to endorse either. That was
early in the race.
Which is fine.
That was early in the race.
Yeah, he needs to.
Yeah.
But notoriously not taking a stand whatsoever is very popular.
I think we're probably
You know,
Sharon Gray endorsed me.
the message has got to get out there, and your talking points have got to be known. People have to know
That's why we're
how
doing
they're hurting. And I hate to do this, but I have to. You know, the time has come where we will run. Yeah,
Will you door knock for us?
yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're going to get us information.
But then you're going to have to talk to me because I want more information
I will
about
definitely-
every precinct in the county.
I have it all. I have all the maps. We're ready to go. We don't mess around.
You got your crap together. If you've got your districts bing bang bang
I
like
was just going to
that,
say, I've already hitched my way.
I have asked for this
She's
for
got it all
information
done
for
already.
over a year.
So,
I've asked for the information for over a year.
We have all the maps. We have
okay.
everything.
So this is my message for today.
So
No,
I
don't
hired
want to see
a
that right
van
now
guy.
because we're de-escalating.
I hooked on
Yeah.
the van,
These are
right?
the
And then
things we
I
already
looked
have
at
them.
it for probably 3
Serve
weeks,
two,
and I
serve
said, I can't figure this
They're
out.
guys
So then I
put their
gave it
maps
to Dana,
together.
and I said, Dana, figure this out. And she goes, nope. So then I hooked on with a young college kid. Who
Is that Matt?
Yeah.
Matthew.
And within 45 minutes, he had us everything that we needed. I mean, he's still working on it.
He just
So
sent
he sent us all the maps. And he goes, I texted him last night and I said, Matthew, I'm going to drop off your check because he's the only paid person on my campaign. He's a college kid. He deserves to be paid. And I dropped him off his check last night and he says, well, just tell me which precinct in Menominee that you want a lit drop and I'll get you the map. And I go, Matthew, I don't know. Send us a map and we'll do it.
And he did.
And he did. He's like, okay, this will be an easily walkable one for you. You know. So yeah, we will get you the maps.
Okay, and will you have a structure,
A what?
an implementation structure?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
a paper to read.
Yes.
A script.
Yeah.
Well,
If you-
not just
But
a
how you
direct-
how you pick
What sort of
precincts.
support can we give